Welcome to London and the Gfinity Arena for the Hearthstone Summer Masters. I'm your host, Callum Leslie. Alongside with me are Lothar and Caldi for our first game. But we're very excited to be here at the Gfinity Summer Masters. It's going to be an amazing tournament for 2 days. We have 8 of the very best players from across the world fighting out for a share of $10,000. We're going to bring you all the information you need for this weekend. We're going to be going into our first game very shortly as well, going into Group A. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to bring you the schedule here for the 2 days. You can see on the schedule on your screen, we're going to be focusing on the groups today. We're going to bring you a match from Group A, a match from Group B, and then the winners and final elimination matches of those 2 groups. Other matches will be played off-stream. We'll bring you the results of those when we have them. And of course, tomorrow we're going to move into our playoffs, our single elimination playoffs. Of the groups are double elimination, playoffs are single elimination, semi-finals and final tomorrow. So let's take a look at the rules and the prize pool and see how these players are going to shake out. As I say, 8 players, 2 groups of 4, dual elimination format, GSL format, whatever you want to call it, dual tournament format. 2 players will go through to the single elimination playoff phase, and if they make it out of their groups, they've made the money. So this is a big opportunity for these players. Obviously, players who get it through will get $1,250, but the winner will take home $5,000. Such a huge opportunity for these players, and we're going to talk about who those players are in just a second once we get that available. But $5,000, of course, a huge amount of money, $10,000 prize pool. And we have the groups here. I'm bringing the 8 players, as you can see, 2 groups of 4. How these are going to shake out. Some names might jump out at you from recent tournaments. Some names might jump out at you from tournaments in the past, if you've maybe been a Hearthstone fan for a long time, and maybe some players you've never heard of before. But Lothar, what a great list of players we've got. What a great prize pool, a great venue. It's going to be such an amazing tournament this weekend.
Yeah, well, this is the second time I'm here. I'm really excited to be here, and this is also my first time as an analyst in pure form. So I'm doing only this time, and I hope so, that I will be giving the viewers the best experience when it comes to the inside of the games and the matches and how the decks are working for the players and should be working. So I'm looking forward to what are the decks that players will bring here. We know some of them. We don't know some of them because there are new names. But in general, Group A, we have Tom60229, which is a Blizzard World Championships attendant. So he has the experience, one of the few players here that have the experience of being on a broadcasted tournament. So his nerves will be, I think, more tamed than with the other players. But in Group A, we have also Unskiller, which is a Polish player, which I know. And he's the opposite of Tom. Like, he's super nervous. So this might be a big factor for him. Hopefully, will not. We'll see how it goes. We saw some really, really big nervous games from even the biggest names in Hearthstone, generally because of patrons, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And joining us on the desk for this first game as well is Caldi. Caldi's going to be flicking back and forth from the caster's room and the desk up here, analysing with us. We're pleased to have you with us for our first game, Caldi. We're going to talk about that first game, which is going to be ExplodingCow versus Tom60229. You can see from the fixture list in just a second. And then coming up in Group B, it's actually not going to be Chipper versus Legendary. It's going to be Hawkeye versus Deathalore on the main stage here. 2 of the big names in this tournament that people are going to be looking forward to seeing. And then, as I said, we're going to bring the winners games and the elimination games as well. So we're going to know by the end of today who's going to our playoff finals. And as you can see, the challenger stage there, we're going to have the other group games and then the loser games. So there's a potential for some players who might not even make it onto the Mage stage. They might go straight out in groups, but this is a really big opportunity for these players. Caldi, this is such a big opportunity coming in here in a major tournament. There's only 8 players. There's, perhaps not the kind of world beater players, the established major winners. For everyone here, this would be a huge opportunity.
I think people are going to be looking at the 1250 for top 4. And you only need to get to the first group to make that. So I think, as you go into a tournament like this, you can't be expecting to win the entire thing. But just 2 games won, and you have the 1250 in your pocket there. So, but I think it's going to be interesting, especially to see Tom, because he was here last time as well, and didn't quite make it, but looking to do a better second time around.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that matchup in just a second. Lothar, let's quickly look at Group B, which we're going to see coming up. The names are going to jump out to everyone: Hawkeye and Deathalore, 2 of the very best players of Europe, players from Greece as well. And we can see, we're going to look at our predictions as well in a second, but looking at Hawkeye and Deathalore, teammates as well now on Team Fade to Karma, haven't been practicing together since they knew about this tournament, but practicing with the same people, so maybe we'll see some same strategies coming out from those players. obviously you have a large team and Team the Helam. Your players have played each other before. How does that work in tournaments? How does that affect your preparation?
Well, it's different when you know that you'll be playing against each other, and it's different if you know that like in different groups. So it kind of affects like in an example when we were preparing for Seed Story Cup in Take TV, right? We knew that we will be not like playing against each other in the first groups, so we all talk together and stuff. So we prepare together. But when we know that we actually like playing against each other, then we try to avoid that and maybe like split into small groups or just avoid telling each other specifics to the players that will be facing each other because we want to get like a fair match between us. Yeah,
Absolutely. So let's look at the predictions here. We have all the broadcast talent gave their predictions of who was going to win this tournament and who was going to be the dark horse. Now you can see 4 of us went for Hawkeye. Nimsh and Sotlo have gone for Tom60229. Maybe we'll hear from Nimsh in a second. He's going to be casting our first game. Why he thinks that. Lots of players going for ExplodingCow as their dark horse, though, so that's really interesting coming up in our first game. Lothar, you've gone for Deathalor as your dark horse, which of course is interesting. He's going up against the person you've picked to win in the very first game. Talk to us a little bit about Deathalor. And obviously people are talking about Hawkeye, DreamHack Summer, EU versus CN, doing very, very well for himself, but talk about Deathalor a little bit and why you think he might be one to watch.
Well, he is like one of the players that is really strong. He really has a strong mindset when it comes to being a player too, and he brings always the I would say the power decks. He's also from Greece and from the same team as Hawkeye, so I bet they're prepared well for this tournament. But my prediction for being the winner was of course Hawkeye, because I think it's one of the strongest players in general in Europe, and Deathalor will be just in the shadow of him, at least in the tournament. So even in the first match, right? They're both playing against each other, and I just think that Deathalor will be with a disadvantage after the first game because he will probably lose to Hawkeye, and then he will be the wildcard for me.
Yeah, a little bit difficult, but let's talk about the first game. It's going to be ExplodingCow versus Tom60229. ExplodingCow, I believe your dark horse, Caldy, to take the whole tournament as well. Tom, we talked about, very experienced player from Taiwan, one of the very best players in Taiwan, currently sitting at number 3 in the Hearthstone World Championship qualification standings, so has a good chance of making it to the World Championships back-to-back years, and I can't think there's going to be many people who are able to do that. So that's going to be a very impressive feat if he's able to pull it off. We did see the classes there from the players as well. Maybe some things we might not expect. We see Hunter, Mage, and Warrior from ExplodingCow, and Druid, Warrior, Warlock from Tom. I want to get both of your thoughts on this because I guess kind of the perceived wisdom would be there are 3 really strong classes right now, which are Warrior, Warlock, and Hunter. Yeah. And to bring anything else than that is a bit of a weird choice. What do you guys think of the wisdom of breaking away from those established classes, and particularly the 2 that our guys have chosen here, Lothar?
Well, those 3 classes that you just named, of course, are the best ones in current metagame. But at the same time, Freeze Mage is just like a little bit behind them, I think. It has a weak spot against Patrons, because the Patrons, we all know that the Patrons have less armor than the Control Warrior, but still, you can win the matchup easily against Freeze Mage with just 2 armor smiths, and that's it. So basically, the Freeze Mage is kind of a disadvantage when it comes to the stronger deck in the metagame, but he's really well prepared against the rest of the pool. So I would say that Freeze Mage might be a common choice in by most of the players if they're feeling comfortable playing it, because it's not an easy deck to play with.
Well, the thing that I want to get people hyped for as well is that I have to say ExplodingCow's Mage deck is not a Freeze Mage. If I know Cow, which I have seen him play in a number of tournaments, he is very known for playing a very unique Control Mage deck. It has a lot of the elements of things like Freeze Mage and Fatigue Mage. It heals a lot, but really its win condition is just to stay alive. Caldy, you've seen this deck before. Tell us a little bit about what to expect potentially from ExplodingCow's Mage if it is perhaps going in line with what he's played before.
It's very similar to the Tempo Mage, but you have a Flame Strike and a few Blizzard as well, so it's a bit of a slower mid-range Mage. Will fall pretty easily, I guess, to Hunter, but there's a lot of mix and match cards. I think the biggest thing will be, just the surprise factor. Tom probably have never played against anything close to this, so if it is in fact going to be the standard, I guess, cow Mage, so it should be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, we've only ever seen it in person at tournaments, which the videos of which are not particularly readily available. So I can't imagine Tom has been able to do a huge amount of preparation for this. So we will see that coming up when we get into the game. Just quickly on Druid as well, Lothar. What do you think of the spot of Druid right now? It feels like it's a deck which is still kind of as strong as it was, but just everything else is a little bit stronger.
I think it's the matter of consistency and not about this strong, the factor of being strong, right? Because Druid with Innervate and Wild Growth can win against anything. That's the problem with this class, and having like too much of those acceleration cards in your opening hand on in the first draws, or not enough of them, it will be just the fate of the Druid in the match.
Absolutely. Just in a word, guys, predictions for this game, Lothar?
I think it will be Tom.
Calding?
It's going to be Cow, yeah.
Well, split predictions from our panel here. We'll see how this is going to shake out. We're going to take it down to game number 1 in just a second. Our casters, Nimsh and Raven, are just about ready there. So we're going to throw it down to them. Take it away, guys.
Thank you so much. This is Nimsh and Raven, and we are about to see some amazing Hearthstone, amazing tournament overall. I'm so excited, Raven.
Yeah, same, especially in it. And this first game as well for me, I've got a teammate playing in it as well, so it's I'm really happy to be casting it.
So you're rooting for ExplodingCow, right?
Yeah, 100%.
What can you tell me about ExplodingCow? Because like not everyone is familiar with the guy and with his style overall.
Yeah, so he's actually quite a long-time Magic player as well, so he has a lot of background in card games. He's very meticulous, quite a slow player, likes to just plan out everything, weigh up every single opportunity and what he can do. And I've seen some crazy plays, and as sort of the analyst guys over there mentioned, that he makes decks of very much his own style, and really it's a surprise to play against. And it gets to the extent where if he locks in the deck, you open it up and it's like, I don't even know what I'm playing against. So how can players even plan or even really just get around it? It's going to be a struggle for Tom. I think that's why I think Cal's going to take it.
Well, I'm rooting for Tom myself. I put Tom as a winner of the whole tournament because Tom is so consistent, just qualifying for all those tournaments. He qualified for one Gfinity before, he qualified again. He qualified for BlizzCon. He was the one who kicked off Amaz out of the World Championship circuit, just winning against him, I believe, in Taiwan. So he is a great player himself, and he has a really great style. Right now, this will be a clash, Asia versus Europe.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm just rooting for Cow, but it is going to be probably his toughest game out of his group, and maybe even one of the toughest games of the tournament. So I think if he can get the win, then it's going to give him a lot of momentum and maybe potentially carry him through the group. But even if he gets the loss, it's like you've lost to probably the best player in the group. So, you know, he can still just compose himself and just carry on through there.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And looking at the matchups, who do you think has an edge? Like, just out of the personal preference.
Okay, with the matchups, I'd have to say it's a tough one. Both guys have actually brought sort of some power decks, and maybe the Druid, the Warlock Warriors, pretty standard. And you know, again, as Lothar mentioned, with Druid, you can pretty much just get the win if you get the early start. But I think Hunter's really strong at the moment, and because Tom's lacking that, I think he can actually take the win against. Hunter's normally strong versus Druid and can do well versus Warrior, I think, at least. I'm not sure whether it's Patron or Control, but either way, I think Hunter's pretty good matchup versus both.
Versus Warlock, it should be alright as well.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Alright, so the players selected Warrior and Hunter as their starting deck. So we don't know what Hunter is. Like, what is the preference for ExplodingCow? Is it mid-range?
I think it's going to be mid-range from Cow. Like I said, he's much more of a control sort of slow player, and he doesn't really favour aggro too much. I know he's used it in tournaments before, but he's never really been comfortable with it. It's not something he practices too much, so I'd be really surprised if it's not mid-range.
So assuming it's mid-range, and then Tom selected his Warrior, can we assume it's Patron?
I think there's part of it where any warrior in a tournament, you just assumes Patron because the deck's so popular and so strong at the moment. But very recently, maybe in the past week or so, at least on ladder, I've been seeing quite a lot of control warriors, maybe to counter the fact that everyone's playing Patron and maybe more decks that control is strong against. I would have to just guess it's Patron though, just because of sheer popularity.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then looking at the matchup, mid-range Hunter versus Patron, this is a very difficult matchup to assess. It depends on a couple of cards. Like Warrior has to get the weapon, and if Hunter is actually aggressive enough to put pressure on the Warrior, it's tough for Patron to stabilize and combo out, because when you get like a Hyman maybe on turn 5 even with the coin followed up by maybe Lotheb, then you necessarily need Torison. You need the combo pieces to be cheaper.
Yeah, and I also think one of the key cards in the matchup, if it is mid-range, is going to be getting a good Houndmaster target off. Because if your Houndmaster or Web Spinner or a lot of the sort of lower Hunter cards, they suddenly gain enough damage to trade well with patrons. And obviously the Houndmaster trades well as well. So building the board quickly is going to be key in this matchup for the Hunter. Whereas the patron's got to try and, like you said, get the weapon early and try and get the control and then do the combo and just hope there's no answer.
Yeah, definitely. I'm super happy that Houndmaster is back in the metagame. It's such an amazing card. For 4 mana, you get almost like a 6/5 stats if you have the beast on board.
Yeah, and like I said, because it buffs like cards like Web Spinner, Creeper, it makes them so much more powerful, and they're already good cards anyway, and you're going to probably have them on the board as well. So to just build up the board, I think it's key if you, as the mid hunter, especially in this matchup, to just keep board control. And I think Cow's probably going to try and focus on just removing anything else off the board on the Warriors side, as opposed to trying rushing him down.
Absolutely. But what we can actually see maybe is a Control Warrior versus Face Hunter. And that would be something totally different.
Yeah, definitely. If it's Control Warrior and Face Hunter, you've just got to, unless the Control Warrior draws terribly and the Face Hunter God draws, you've just got to say it's the Control Warrior's favor.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, so the game is going to start really soon. And actually, we're jumping right into it. Hunter versus Warrior.
Yeah, and it looks like it is going to be the mid-hunter. You see the Dr. Boom, the Web Spinners, 2 pretty key cards. I mean, maybe people run Dr. Boom in Aggro Hunter, but it's not too common. But, you know, the Eagle Horn Bow, the Web Spinner. So I think other than the Dr. Boom, Cow's actually probably pretty happy with his start.
Yeah, it's a very good opening. Versus Warrior, you want to have the Web Spinner early as well. You want those minions and put up the pressure on the Warrior. Dr. Boom, an obvious mulligan, but as you said, this is for sure mid-range because another card that would maybe sell the Hybrid Hunter would be a Leperno, but he is running Web Spinners.
Yeah.
And a Hybrid Hunter is not running Web Spinners for.
Yeah, it's normally what you actually swap it with, and also I think it's key getting the Creepers and the Web Spinners early because you don't want them on the board when patrons are potentially going to come out, because again, it's just cards that are going to generate more patrons and cause even more issues.
Yeah, we've seen Grommash, Hellscream for Tom60229, and what does it tell you?
Yeah, I mean, when you see Grommash, you normally probably lean towards a Control Warrior, but I think it's a flair pick. It's a style pick in Patron. There's a style of Patron where you don't run as much card draw, but Grommash gives you another win condition. It's not all just reliant on the combo. So it could still be either. I think it might be Control, but
I think like a lot of Asian players are actually playing Grommash in their patron list. They do want cards that make the deck more flexible. And Grommash, as you said, it's another win condition. You're not that reliant on Grommash as a card in Green Patron Warrior. So I personally like it. It's just
I think it's a surprise factor as well because, I mean, against Patron, you're so focused on the Patron or Frothing Berserker combos, and you might think you're safe because the board's empty, but you're on quite low health, and then someone just plays Grommash and you lose. So, like, I think the surprise factor in that, because you wouldn't go into a Patron matchup and expect them to play Grom. So I like flare picks like that in decks, so we could see that.
Certainly.
And it looks like it is.
It is a Green Patron. I can tell by seeing the War Song and Inner Age, obviously.
Yeah, and we see that the Web Spinner's been played turn 1 and been removed by the Fiery War Axe, and actually give him a Stampeding Kodo, which is oh no, it's not, it's Rhino, isn't it? I always get mixed up with those 2 cards.
It's
Tundra Rhino.
Is it Tundra Rhino?
Yeah, which is going to be pretty big. If Cow can actually get the Tundra Rhino down, it survives a turn, and if he has like the perfect draw of having a Savannah to follow up, like the charge on that could be huge.
Yeah, it's definitely a very good card versus Patron, even though it has 2 attack, and you normally don't want to have 2 attack cards, but turn 5 for it is early enough. Maybe even turn 4 because he still has a coin.
See an early Warsong Commander come down from Tom, so we already know there's one of his key cards gone, and I think he just had to put it down because, one, he doesn't know what style of Hunter this is yet. I suppose the Web Spinner might have given away too much, but Tom really needs to get that board control, and as we said, the Hunter wants to build the board and the Warrior just needs to stop him.
Also, he wanted to just draw cards with Battle Rage. Versus Hunter as a Green Patron, you want to draw as many cards as possible in the very beginning and stop it. And unfortunately for him, he has to Battle Rage anyway, just for 1. He got Torison, which is important, but then we could see the sigh, because when you get the Torison, you want to have Warsong in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the Patron, which is key card. Even it's good to have Grom, just to reduce that cost a little bit, because that is the top end of the curve in this deck. But Cow's just going to drop the Shredder and start building that board up. He has Mad Scientist, and the Freezing Trap in hand, you wouldn't naturally say it's not good to have traps because you have Scientists, but also it's sometimes it works in your favor because you can choose when to bounce something back, and you can have a bit more control as opposed to he's killed a scientist and now the warrior can pick what he bounces, as opposed to if we just saw the patron on the board solo for some reason, or even if it gets the in a rage, you can bounce one of the patrons. It's going to slow the warrior down quite a lot.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm just looking at Tom's hand, and Tom was laughing at the situation. He got another Warsong, and he has a patron as well, so he has all the combo pieces almost, even that inner rage. If he picks up Whirlwind next turn, and then drops Story Sun, that will be a almost like a winning hand.
Yeah, because Cow's not really managed to do too much here. The Animal Companion's a good draw, and I imagine we might see that into Scientist as possible, or he might just push the hero power for more damage, but I think now with what looked to be not great from Tom early on with the card he's got in his hand, if he can just hold out long enough to get Thorison to reduce the cost, then he can do some big turns straight after that.
Huffer was an amazing card for ExplodingCow, because this is exactly when he needs to pressure. This will be the turn where Tom has to play Thorison, and then hope that next turn you just go with the combo with Patron into well, Warsong first, Patron, Armorsmith in rage. Armorsmith might also be a good card for Tom because he is going to get a bit of health.
Yeah, and the Sludge Belt's a good draw from Cow as well, because one of the problems he's got is the Creeper, the Scientist, and the Frostwolf Grunt, all terrible to have on the board on a patron turn. And with the Thorison coming down, you almost have to expect a big turn to follow up, because the Warrior's still sitting on a good sizable hand there, so the options are quite varied, but he's going to want to try and get rid of those low attack minions just to stop the positive trading for Tom.
Actually, I think for ExplodingCow, you might just set up the freezing trap and go face, and even play the Tundra Rhino. Yeah,
I mean, you can take Tom to 6, right? I think that's 14. Oh, you can Hunter's Mark and yeah, just prot the freezing trap, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine as well. Like, basically you want to be aggressive for sure. I would not hate the Rhino here.
I wouldn't even mind coin hero power, just to really squeeze in that extra damage, because like, what do you actually need it for with Cow's hand? There's not a lot that he needs to coin out next turn.
Yep, that's right. If that is a freezing trap, right?
Yes, I think you almost certainly expect double freezing trap, and anything else is more just style choices. But again, Tom's going to just presume it's a freezing trap because it's the most common one there.
Alright, so that is a freezing trap. I think I would play Inner Rage first, so that you get like 1 extra armor. So here, he missed that 1 armor, but overall...
Yeah, and he's actually been able to, create the patron board, which is good, but that Armorsmith getting bounced is actually pretty huge, because look at the armor he would have actually gained. Even he missed the first one, but if the Armorsmith was still on board and the freezing trap wasn't there, he would have just gained so much more and made him much more safe.
So if the whole board is cleared, and I believe that's the case here, he's getting all those patrons, but the board is getting clear, and then...
Cow just unleashes.
That's right, and he has 12 points of damage.
Yeah, and it's a good answer actually. It sounds really bad when you say Unleash the Hounds is a good answer to a patron board, but even if he didn't have lethal, because the board is full, he could actually use Unleash to take all the patrons to 1 and then clear up a bit better than you would on, say, less patron board. But he's gonna just do the damage there and finish the game up. That went really well.
Yeah, that's right. So ExplodingCow is taking game number 1. There's actually 1 less damage because there was only 6 minions on Tom's board. I think that was exactly how you win with the mid-range hunter. You need those early minions. He had the bow, he had the web spinner, so it looked pretty good for ExplodingCow from the very beginning. Even though Tom got Thorison, he got the weapon. It was hard to fight back. He almost got it.
Yeah, I think the Armorsmith getting bounced with the trap was huge because, like I said, that would have actually pushed him out of lethal range and he would have been much safer, but I think Cow just being able to build the board up like he did, he had a really good start with the bow as well. Even if, again, it didn't get lethal as quick as he did, the bow can trade really well with patrons and just take them off the board.
If Tom would Inner Rage first and then attack with the Armorsmith,
would have been 1-off.
Then he would be 1-off, and ExplodingCow will have to do something because he would not be able to just go all in with the board. That might have lost him the game. The small thing.
Yeah, it might have, because the Armorsmith's in hand as well. So he could have just played the Armorsmith Whirlwind, and then he could have been holding double Whirlwind in hand maybe, and not needed it because of all the trades he could have done to fill the board. So yeah, that game could have actually just flipped the other way.
Raven, this is Hearthstone. Like a simple, small decision you make. What was the reason why he didn't Inner Rage? Like, was there any reason you can find? Like,
I'm not sure, because the only reason you might have thought is that it's not freezing trap. But maybe he just thought he was a lot safer than he was. Cow didn't have too many cards in hand, I don't think, but you've always got to be wary of, like, didn't see any kill commands, so he could have had double kill command for even more damage there, so I don't know. I think it might have just been a straight up misplay, to be honest.
It's the first game, and well, we talked about it before we started the tournament, but basically fatigue. ExplodingCow did travel for 1 hour, and Tom was flying for what, like 12? So, you know, it gets to you, like, get to another time zone, you might miss those small things, and it might actually cost you the game in the end. For ExplodingCow, Hunter's locked, and he's left with Warrior and Mage.
Mage, yeah.
All right. So what do you take here?
I think because I know Cow's style and know quite a bit about the decks he's taking, I think I'll probably want to take his Warrior and try and get a win there. Because if he sits on Freeze Mage as his last deck and he has to potentially play 3 games straight, I think that deck alone will wear Tom down a little bit more as well. So we could, I think he'll be pretty confident. He's played this style of Mage for so long. He's played it for months and months and months. So he has so much experience and he's so comfortable with the deck. We spoke to him before the tournament and we were like, oh, so you're taking your Mage, I guess. He said, yeah, well, it's by far my most comfortable deck. He's played so much of it. Why wouldn't I?
He loves his Mage.
Yeah, exactly. It
begs the question, like, why Exploding Cow and not Exploding Sheep?
Yeah, I mean, well, that might be too close to Green Sheep, mightn't it? So they can't share the animal name, I guess. So.
All right. And for Tom, I think you can just go ahead with the Warrior again. At this point, if you went into with Warrior into the first match, I don't think you really want to mix things up that much. If Exploding Cow picks Mage, as you say, I think with Patron he has a good chance to actually take the match. You just want to armor up as much as possible and get a big armor smith turn.
Yeah, it's like if you play Patron versus Freeze Mage, a completely valid tactic is that you just play it as if you're a control warrior and just get the big armor turns, and they, regardless of you trying to pull big combos to win like you normally would, you just don't die instead and just let the Mage burn out. So then I think locking the Patron in anyway, regardless of what Cow could lock in, would be the right decision, because Patron's so good that you can take a win from so many games that sort of look bad at some points, and it's the sort of same with like an Oil Rogue style where even though the deck might not have the most favourable matchups, you can still win with just a crazy build and Oil Up Blade Flurry the board for like 20 plus damage. So I think it's fairly safe to just lock in the Warrior again.
Yeah, that's certainly true. We had a small look at the players, and they look really focused. Like Tom is obviously thinking about the next match, next deck that he's going to take, but he's not phased about the loss.
Yeah, I think that's experience more than anything as well. I think a lot of the newer players here, if they got beat game 1, especially playing a deck like Patron, where you probably, if you're bringing it to a tournament, you're confident with it and you know how powerful it is, to just lose to someone that Tom probably doesn't even know who he is, it would throw another player, or even if Cow lost, it might throw him off a little bit. But Tom's so experienced, it's like it's one game. It does mean something, but you can easily come back. We see a lot of 3-2s in Conquest format.
And you've mentioned momentum with regards to Exploding Cow. Do you think he has momentum now after winning this first game versus Patron?
Yeah, definitely, especially against Patron as well. Like, it's a hard deck to play against, but the fact that the game just went really well for him has got to feel good. And, you know, with it, 2 other decks that he's really comfortable with, he's probably just quite happy at the moment. He could lock in either and be happy and just keep going. I think, yeah, I think he'll be pretty confident about the win.
Yeah, you can definitely see the practice he put into that web spinner game. Like last week, probably Tavern Brawl with the web spinners helping a lot. And bringing this deck now, you know, he was confident with his picks from the web spinner.
Yeah, just a shame we didn't see the Charge Beast, that's all. I would have liked to see some crazy stuff happen, but unfortunately the game didn't really go on long enough to see that.
Right, it's actually amazing when you get it, especially like you mentioned Savannah High Main, but other stuff you can charge.
Yeah, and it's just unexpected as well. If you play, and 5 health is actually quite difficult to remove for most classes, out of nowhere because it comes from a web spinner. So yeah, it's definitely a fun card.
All right, so we can see the locks for the next game. It will be Mage from Exploding Cow, as you said, and Warlock for Tom60229. And I think Tom is mostly a handlock player. I've seen him playing a lot of handlock. I'm not sure if he changed that recently, but right now with Warlock, it's such an amazing class. We have so many archetypes. We have handlock, Malygos lock, we have the Zoo. We also have like a more heavy Demon Zoo.
Yeah, it's like a control Warlock that's been doing well on ladder at the moment as well, which is just still plays Mal'Ganis, plays Jaraxxus, but double heal bots, just full control and just not dying, which has worked really well against aggro decks.
Yeah, so do you think like Tom is bringing the handlock with this lineup? Green Patron, Druid, And Handlock?
Yeah, I think Handlock's really strong. It's and it's also maybe a pick against other patron players as well, because the matchup's normally favoured towards the Handlock. And it's also got, again, it's just one of those strong decks. As long as you don't draw terribly, you can get that turn 4 drop, then he's probably feeling pretty comfortable. But against the Mage, it's really weird as well, because he probably doesn't know what style of Mage Cow's playing. And as Handlock, you've got to be a little bit wary of things like Mirror Entity, if it's like Tempo Mage or something like that, because there are a lot of cards you really don't want to drop onto that unless you have the answering hand. But even that's just more mana and more of your turn used up.
That's true. And game is starting. Tom60229 versus ExplodingCow. Mage versus Warlock.
Is this Malygos?
That's a Malygos Warlock, my favorite deck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is my favorite deck.
Okay.
I played it a lot, and I just love the fact like how you burst your opponents.
Yeah, I like playing against that deck, because I just play Hunter a lot, and that's fine. I'd rather play against that deck than Handlock, because Molten Giants don't exist.
That's true. You don't have to worry about Molten Giants, but you do have to worry about the 17 damage burst coming up.
True. You just don't let them last that long. That's the trick.
So what can you tell me about this Mage? Like, we talked about it a lot. Like, ExplodingCow was bringing his own brew, and it looked like... Well, it's not a freeze mage. There is a
no, it's not freeze mage. Yeah.
And our ice barrier.
Yeah. So as we can see with cards like an Illuminator, this mage is very stylistic. The way this mage wins is pretty much just removing your opponent's threats and just not letting your opponent win instead. It's not so much fatigue, in which it forces card draw onto you and just outlast, but it just doesn't die. And with cards like Water Elemental and Flame Cannon, you can lock down your opponent really easily.
Are you telling me this deck doesn't actually have a win condition?
Its win condition is that you just remove your opponent's win conditions and then you default win. So you'll see when we go. You'll see when the game gets going. It plays a lot of one-offs as well. So there's a lot of room in the deck for like more sort of flair cards and just surprising cards for Tom to try and deal with.
He didn't even ping the face. He passed on 2.
Yeah, I think he probably doesn't want to. Because like I said, Cow's game plan won't be to just try and rush the Warlock down or to even really particularly kill him, which sounds really weird in a game that you win by killing your opponent. But he's in no rush. He just wants to draw as much as he can and then play around. We're probably going to see the Mad Scientist drop, although it does just feed into the Gang Boss a little bit. But I think Cow might know this is Malygos.
Well, he might actually assume this is Malygos because there was no turn to play, and now there is an Imp Gang Boss. But it can still be a Zoo with a really bad draw.
Yep. Which is he's probably going to be feeling happy about if he thinks that. So see the Flame Cannon coming out again, and these cards just constantly will throw Tom off, I think, because you see a Flame Cannon, so you think Tempo Mage is the most common pick there, but then he's probably going to drop a Water Elemental potentially, or when there's a secret pop from the Scientist, the Illuminator will come down, and it's just like, what? How does Tom even respond to this? I suppose what's good is he's playing Malygos Lock, so he has his own game plan regardless, and Cow has to more answer the late game burst potential.
Yeah, that's true. And Tom actually got the Corruptor off the Azure Drake, so he doesn't have any dragons now to activate the hero power. But I'm thinking about this matchup overall. So Cow, he has Ice Block or no Ice Block?
I don't think he runs Ice Block. He runs Ice Barriers, I think.
So looking at all those cards that stop damage, I think Tom still has an edge, because what he has to do only is draw into all the combo cards, then drop a very big Torison, and after that he will have enough burst with Malygos and the damage cards to actually win the game in one turn.
Yeah, and looking at Tom's hand, he has 2 Dart Bombs and he has a Soulfire, and even Mortal Coil's amazing if you can get the Malygos out. So he really wants to draw into the Thaurissan really soon, because he's effectively got the damage cards he needs. He just needs Thaurissan and the Malygos. And he's got the time to do it as well, because like I said, Cow's not going to rush him down with this deck. So I think Tom's actually going to be favoured in this matchup overall. He just has to plan the burst correctly, but I imagine a player the caliber of Tom's going to know how to do that. And we see the Spell Power Implosion.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was amazing anyway, because... Okay, if he hits free, it's bad. But like with this, Immortal Coil doing 2 damage, he draws and he got Malygos as well.
Yep. And then Cow draws into a bit of an answer though, with his Exploding Sheep that he's put into there. So I don't know if we'll see it dropped, because he's probably not too worried about the 4 imps at least. It's not too much damage, and he runs a lot of defensive cards in this deck. So
how important Thaurissan is this Mage deck?
I think if he can get it off safely, but I think if he can get it off safely, it's okay, but I don't think it's vital. It allows him to do crazier turns as that card, you know, that's its job. But I think the key is getting it off in a safe environment and not just dropping Thorison like we saw in the previous game that Tom did because he had to and he just dropped it on a board that had loads of minions and he just hoped it was enough. I think he's got more time to play with. See, Tom's actually going quite aggressive. Yeah, he's using one of the key spell damage cards.
He probably thinks that, well, he doesn't know exactly what mage it is. He might assume this is kind of like tempo mage with water elementals because of the cards he's seen. But his game plan is that he just wants to deal damage, play those minions that are able to push the board state, and he's fine with just Dark Bomb and Soulfire in his hand.
Yeah, and the Twilight Drake's going to be quite difficult to remove unless Cow has a silence. So, you know, the 9 health's quite good. It's pretty Flame Strike proof, which is the turn he's now stepped into on 7 mana. So he's probably going to be pretty happy with that play, and he has drawn the Malygos as well. So now he's only really waiting on that Emperor.
I wonder what the secret is. We've seen Ice Barrier being mulliganed away. So this can be the Ice Barrier, but yeah, is he playing Duplicate?
Yeah, it might well be a Duplicate. That card, I have seen this deck actually have 3 Illuminators on the board with a secret at once, so not something you really want to see, but...
Alright, so for now it looks alright for Tom. Like, even if this is Duplicate, or whatever secret it is, it's actually alright. There is a Duplicate.
And the trade, that Drake, they did so much there as well. It was on 1 health, and with the help of the Abusive, it still cleared the Belcher. So Tom's going to be pretty happy going into the Corruptor as well to just clear the board again. So he's answered Cow's board, and Cow's only on 18. And this, the Warlock has the ability a bit later in the game to just kill him from 18 health.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, he might not even need Malygos here, because Cow will not be able to remove everything. If he casts Flame Strike, he's not able to kill the 4/9. So Flame Strike doesn't seem that great, just killing the 2/1 and 5/4. What do you do then? You can go into Belcher maybe again and prepare for the Flame Strike next turn, or silence Flame Strike. Or maybe you even play the silence this turn. You just play Belcher, silence the 4/9.
Yeah, I think he might want to think about getting an Ice Barrier down as well. He has it in hand, and because Malygos Lock doesn't need minions to hit at this point in the game, he could lose all his minions and still kill him with spells. He probably wants the Ice Barrier procced somehow just to gain the life.
That's true. Is he afraid of dying from this spot?
I think because he's not seen the Emperor, he's feeling a bit... He's not seen the Emperor, and he's seen 1 Dark Bomb already. So I think he's still okay for now, but I think definitely like 1 or 2 more turns time.
That's 16 points of damage. It's almost lethal.
As Tom, do you think you just push?
Oh man, he almost has it. You might actually, because you will have Corruptor next turn. But not really. Wait, you can silence and then attack for 9. Then with 9 left, you will not be able to play the Corruptor the same turn.
Yeah, and you need to... definitely got to be aware of that Soulfire as well. It's it's going to pump out a lot of damage and potentially finish the game. But if he played it, say, this turn to just try and take Cow as low as possible, he could throw the Corruptor, which means he loses out on that extra damage. So, yeah, I'm just going to see a trade and just get the other Corruptor onto the board, which is still okay.
Yeah, it's still fine because even without Thorison, on turn 10 you have Malygos plus Soulfire. So you can Dark Bomb on 9 and prepare a Soulfire for the win.
Yeah, and another Sludge Belcher is probably not what Cow really wanted to see at this point, because he can't play 2 this turn, and because he duplicated them, he's still got 1 in his hand from the duplicate, so...
Well, he can still silence and Flame Strike, and I think right now it makes much more sense.
Yeah, I think he almost has to.
Well, you know, like, he can ping the 5/1, and then there's 2 minions. He's like 1 mana off from the perfect play, which would be possibly like Sludge Belcher, Ice Barrier, ping.
Yeah, and the Frostbolt in his hand doesn't really do too much either. It doesn't really trade too well. I think as he hovers over it and goes to play it. Oh, he's going to Frostbolt.
So he values the silence more. I wonder why is that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's hoping to actually silence though, because the turn Malygos is played is normally to the turn you die. It's not normally just left on the board and hope it survives to, you know, use the spell power again the next turn. Same with Thorison as well. If Thorison is played, it does its job on the turn it's played, so silencing it after is fine if you can't kill it.
Oh man, that was so close again, with the silence on Twilight Drake and just using both spells. Tom kind of tapped for lethal, but he didn't get it. So what's the best play for Cow now? He used his Flame Strike, he doesn't have any other AoEs. He has double Belcher, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think he might just have to double Belcher. Like, again, Thorison's at the point where he can't really just drop it because there's nothing else great. He could Thorison Barrier, but then his follow-up isn't worth it, I don't think. Whereas I think double Belcher is just as safe as he can be. There's not much work he can really get done with the Sylvanas, unless he plays that in Ice Barrier and again just hopes it's enough. But Ice Barrier Illuminator actually, just to gain the more health.
Well, with this, if Tom realizes that this is Ice Barrier, this is 22 points of health. Tom has at the moment 10 plus 9. So not there yet. Actually, he also
yeah,
heals,
he gets the heal, yeah.
Illuminator is such a weird card.
It's just unfun when it gets duplicated onto secrets.
Okay, so being Tom, what do you think it is? You might think this is second duplicate or an ice block.
Yeah, I think from Tom's point, you would presume a deck like this is playing Ice Block, so it's something he's got to be wary of and not try and just... He probably won't just try and burst him down. If he had 18 damage available now, he might be a little bit wary of just putting everything out and not going all in and hoping it's not Ice Block. Because he's only seen duplicate, right? He's not seen another Ice Barrier or anything. So he's about to find out, though.
Yeah, you definitely attack first. You want to know what it is.
It's really unfortunate that Tom sat with 2 big game hunters in his hand and no targets. I don't even know if there are any targets for BGH in this deck.
If there is an Abusive Sergeant and you mostly play one, then he can BGH it Thorison.
Yeah, he used it earlier. So the Abusive's already gone.
He actually used it.
So again, Tom's just taking his time, which I think is the right play playing this deck. I mean, the Malagos lock, the later the game goes, probably the more happy you are, unless your opponent's healing for loads. But he's just playing the Sludge Belcher, keeping his board safe. The Elemental's not going to do too much. And he's already seen a Flame Strike, so he can actually... There's always a fear of a second Flame Strike, but you've got to feel pretty comfortable just building the board up again after you've seen one.
Yeah, definitely. From Tom's perspective, you just do what you do. You draw cards and accumulate all that burst. At this moment, he has 10 points of damage just with the spells, or like 9 with Soulfire Malagos. That's a lot of burst. He also has Shadow Flame that he can use with BGH if he needs to.
Yeah.
But for Cow, like, what do you do this turn? You still continue clearing. Like, his aim is just to stay alive.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the point. He just keeps playing and keeps not, keep putting more sort of obstacles on the board that Tom has to really answer if he wants to win at some point. But, I mean, we see that there's still another Sludge Belcher in hand. The only problem for Cow now is his hand's getting a little bit low. And as we can see, I don't think there's a lot of good owl targets.
Sludge Belcher might be alright. Like, how much damage is it? This is 6 plus 3, 9 plus 7, 16 points of damage. Not there yet.
I wonder.
You tap for Thorison maybe? Or is he going to hardcast Malagos? But there's the silence.
Yeah, that's and that'll probably be why Cow's held on to the owl. But I just think it's really risky from Tom because he gets a really good Mortal Coil, but the odds on it surviving. I mean, this deck looks like it could well play Polymorph. So if you just polymorphs the Malagos, then although you've got a really good hand and there's a lot of burst there, you've just removed the main win condition from your deck.
Yeah, but still, Tom has a lot of burst in his hand, and Malagos needs to be dealt with. It's still a 4-attack creature.
Yeah, true.
Looking at the sheer amount of cards in hand, I think Tom still has an advantage. He is the one pushing, he has a lot of burst, and Cow needs to deal with the Malagos. Definitely silence. This leaves him with 8 points of mana.
I think Silence, Sludge Belcher, Ice Barrier's going to be the safest. It's probably his last decent turn based off the cards that he's got, because next turn there's no cards really for Thorison to reduce.
Yeah, it will be looking really clunky.
And Sylvanas isn't really going to do too much because he doesn't have a way of, making the interaction work to his favor indefinite, because there's a couple of low drops. Then there'll be although it's a 4/12 at the moment, the Malagos, it'll be silent, so you don't gain that benefit if you do steal it. So Sylvanas is a bit of a wild card at the moment.
I'm sure like this Mage deck is so annoying to play against. It just doesn't want to die.
Yeah, and something that Tom's really got to think about as he learns more about this Mage deck is, do I want to let Cow win just so I don't have to play it again? Because every time, like, Tom will maybe beat this deck, that he knows it's almost certainly going to just come up again, because it wouldn't surprise me if Cow, if he lost this game, to just lock it in again and again, just to try and again wear down Tom's slight fatigue he might be having from the travel, just to put on longer games on top of that.
So Tom doesn't have lethal yet because this is the ace barrier. So it's 25, he'll deal 7, that would be 18. You might just Shadow Flame actually this turn to clear everything. Attack with Malagos, you can...
Oh, he could just run, oh yeah. Yeah, he'd have to attack, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Actually, Shadow Flame doesn't kill the Belcher.
I've got the beast in my
Oh, Shadow Flame being a hunter? Sure. Well, at this point, just looking at 2 cards in your opponent's hand.
Oh, and the Swampoo's pretty dead draw in this matchup. And this is the problem Cow's going to face now. He's just run out of good cards to play, and all his other 2 cards are good if you already have a good board state, or if you have a big hand, and you can mainly wants to drop Thaurissan on turn 6, really, and when he's still at the point in the game where your hand's pretty full, or straight after a duplicate when that, you know, increases your hand size as well. But having it on its own, I mean, he's just dropped Sylvanas that can steal the Malagos, because he can even ping Sylvanas if he needs to and take the 4 damage from the Malagos, but still not a great option.
If he doesn't discard Soulfire from Soulfire, this is exactly 18 points of damage if I count correctly.
Would you do it in this position? Or do you think, because he's in such good control of this match, that you just wait, there's no rush, you've just tapped into a heal bot, so, and you've still got Twilight Drake as your Drake. Do you just play safe, or would you have just gone for the win?
Well, like on my end, I would just go for the win. Because how many cards would he have? Like, he plays Azure Drake, then he draws a card, so he has left with 4, 5, 6 cards. 7 cards in hand. He has 8 now.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's left with 10 if he plays Azure Drake. And then he plays Darkbone first, so he's 6. Soulfire, he has 5 left. And if he discards like Soulfire out of those 5 cards, then he doesn't win, but he's still in a great position.
Yeah, and you've seen cards like Illuminator already come out. Both Ice Barriers are gone. And your opponent's really low, but he's actually going with a Hellfire. I mean, why not? It's more damage.
He's going for the same situation.
Yeah, so...
And he discards Azure Drake, so this means Tom is going to take game number 2. Impressive.
Yeah. I mean, that was... Tom played that as well as he could. The only thing he was really missing was the Emperor there, just to really reduce the hand down and get those spells really cheap. Because he had 2 Dart Bombs and the Soulfire straight away, which is really good, especially when you're against another control deck. Yeah,
it's actually amazing with this Malagos deck. Like, a lot of people think, okay, so if he gets Malagos on board, then I probably lose, but as long as there is no Malagos, I'm in a good shape. But what actually happens is there is so much burst with Abusive Sergeant, and there's this double Soulfire. Actually, some people even cut one Soulfire because there's enough burst without without this additional Soulfire to win the game. Also, what it does is just wins with those big minions. He had Twilight Drake, he had double Corruptor. Corruptor was able to deal 3 points of damage, which mattered at that point as well. So just build up and then finish with spells instead of just, yeah, I get Malagos or I don't get Malagos.
Yeah, it was a really strange Malagos lock game to actually view, but I think Cow's difficulty in dealing with the board and being able to, like you say, drop 2 Corruptors and the Twilight Drake being on 9 health. The Flame Strike was okay, but he had to do it in a strange way. And the other cards, like the first Azure Drake as well, got a lot of value. It spell powered the Imps, and then it traded with something, maybe a Belcher, and then killed a Belcher afterwards with the Abusive Sergeant. So got so much value out of it, even just that 1 minion early on. He just managed to get the value out of the minions as opposed to doing the atypical get Thaurissan, wait, go, and just kill in 1 turn.
Yeah, but then again, like Cow played really good Hearthstone, and he was fighting this uphill battle, as he said. This deck didn't survive this time, but might maybe survive next time. It has to survive only once for it to get locked in.
Yeah, and like I say, because he's so comfortable with it, he knows he can just, like I say, wouldn't be surprised if he just locks it in again, just to play another game and just slow the game down 1 more time. I mean, what has Tom got left now? He's got his Druid and his Warrior.
Druid and Warrior. So Grim Patron versus this deck. This is what you said, like the surprise factor as well. How do you play versus this deck? How do you kill it? What's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to just rush it out and try and hope that they don't draw cards like Sludge Belcher combined with Duplicate, and just try and finish the game really quickly. But Patron, because it's so combo orientated, it's going to be hard to burst a combo when you know this. So Tom's knowledge of the deck now, there's 2 Ice Barriers, there's an Illuminator, Belchers. When can you burst for enough damage? And to get board control then is against Mage, which plays Flame Strike. There might be some more AoE clears. You've seen even Explosive Sheep, which might not be great versus Patron, but if he's got a board with a lot of, say, 2 or 1 health patrons, it might still be worth it to, say, clear 4 patrons and only gain 2 back.
It seems like it will be a similar game to Green Patron versus Control Warrior. Like, there is one window, one opening you can use if you have Fraudings and you can combo out. And if you can use it, you win the game. But if you can't, you just struggle and you lose eventually. Cards of Flame Strike will be amazing versus Green Patron if it doesn't kill you.
Yeah, and Tom's also not seen the whole deck. So there could still be even more surprises in there that we've not seen yet and Tom's not seen yet. So even though the surprise factor of this style of deck is out of the way and Tom is aware of it, there's still, you know, anything could come out.
Yeah. But the match that we are going to see is Druid versus this Mage. Cow takes the Mage again. He hopes it will survive. Tom takes the Druid. Originally, Druid is good versus Mage. How does it fare against this?
It's a similar style to the Patron game where I think the Druid has to win instead of relying on big combos to with the 2-card combo that you imagine he's not playing Ramp Druid. He's going to have to just get those bigger minions on the board that will survive things like Flame Strike and just keep the pressure up and keep trading with Cow's minions and just put the pressure on like he did in the Malygos slot game. And just do it that way, because I think relying on combo is going to be difficult when, again, there's 2 Ice Barriers, there's heal in the deck, and Cow can probably and again, duplicated Sludge Belchers, like, how does he actually just combo through it unless he's got a full board?
Provided that we actually have a fair game, because it's possible that Druid gets the Wild Growth or a big Innervate and starts being super aggressive before
a fair game.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like Cow has those turns, right? Like set up the duplicate, then on 5 play Belcher. If he's already like at 12 health at that point of the game, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we can see the starting hands for the Druid. It's terrible. You throw everything away. You don't even think about it. And for Exploding Cow, Mad Scientist is obviously a great card to start. Frostbolt is nice. Water Elemental, I don't hate it versus Druid. I like stopping the hero power.
Yeah, definitely. I think even holding on to the Water Elemental, because this is not a fast deck, so your 4-drops suddenly become your, other than Mad Scientist, suddenly become like your early drops. So even holding on to a Water Elemental wouldn't be terrible. You probably won't keep the Frostbolt just because against Druid there's not a lot you need to Frostbolt early on. Maybe wants to draw into it a bit later, and you can imagine the Blizzard is going to disappear as well and maybe come back later on.
This deck is called Cow Mage?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like a zombie style type of game when you just try to survive, get the hits, and heal yourself. He throws out the Blizzard. I agree with that. So I wanted to ask you, what's the drop potential in this deck? Like, he didn't draw that many cards last game.
Yeah, I think I think the main draws are going to be I think he plays Arcane Intellect. But other than that, I think it's just relying on Duplicate, which sort of works as card draw and keeping your hand full.
It is providing cards, yeah.
I think because he's using so much clear and so much sticky minions that those are instead of card draw, because cards like Water Elemental are difficult to deal with, so it doesn't mean you have to drop. It's not like playing Hunter, where you want to drop a card every single turn, drop a minion, and just hope that pressure builds up. He's got minions that are hard to remove, or if they do get removed, you know, they might prop the Duplicate, which means then you can just play them again. So I don't think there's tons of card draw, but with cards like Duplicate and Scientist, it sort of does the work for him.
You're generating the cards.
Yeah.
Here, just looking at Tom's hand, he didn't get Wild Growth, he didn't get Innervate, but he has the curve potentially. He will be able to silence Mad Scientist with the Keeper. He has a nice 5-drop, 6-drop, 7-drop. So something is going on there. Not the perfect Druid hand, but it's not the worst I've seen.
Yeah, and the Shade as well is going to be really useful to just hold off. You have seen a Flame Strike, but up until that point, other than Exploding Sheep, which is instantly not going to work because it'll get buffed past that point, he's not too afraid. He can let the Shade build up, and it's going to really help against things like Ice Barrier to just like plow through. It's probably, you know, like 6 attack maybe, and just plow through a good chunk of that on its own, and being really difficult for Cow to remove.
And for Cow, he doesn't really have a turn-free play unless he coins a Water Elemental. But then he got Antonidas, so it is a lot of burst. And is he really in haste? Like, do you have to play Water Elemental here?
Yeah, I think he might just want to put it on the board because the Druid's coming up to turn 4, and if the Keeper does come out on turn 4, then the Water Elemental plus a ping is really easy, and the Water Elemental's still on 4 health, so it's a really easy way to deal with it. And he didn't want to play the duplicate there because the Scientist is going to get duplicated, which he pretty much doesn't want in this deck. He wants the bigger minions like Belchers and Water Elementals or even maybe Sylvanas to get duplicated.
Here for Tom, he picks up Wild Growth, and I think he actually will play it with the Shapeshift, because next turn it's possible Sylvanas, and he knows that this deck doesn't have that much burst, or at least he assumes that it doesn't have that much burst. He didn't see much burst.
Yeah, I think the Antonidas in the deck is probably the sole win condition that's direct sort of damage and not just grindy. But we can see that Cow does have the Polymorph as well in hand, so he can... The thing with the Polymorph is it's good. If you play Sylvanas, Cow can answer it, but then there are so many other big minions that the Druid can drop, like the even the Lotheb and the Ancients of Lore you can see in his hand. He's like, they're still big minions that you need to deal with, and the Polymorph and the Sylvanas will be good because it removes the effect, but there's plenty more to come after that.
We also got an update from the Challenger stage where Don't Stop Me 1 vs Unskiller 3-2.
Okay.
We have like another match running simultaneously. Unskiller is not out of the tournament yet, and we'll have him in the main stage at some point.
So Cow's drawn into his Ooze again in another matchup where it's just going to be a 3-2. Unfortunately, the Druids don't keep the weapon effect of the hero power, so you can't get rid of anything with it.
Well, it's the 3-2. By the way, Tom in the end decided to play that Ancient of the Grove. What do you think about that?
I think what he didn't want to happen was for the Scientist to run into say the Sylvanas, and then if the Water Elemental dies and it's duplicate, Water Elementals are such a pain to deal with, and now you've just dealt with one, but now you've got 2 more to deal with, and they're quite at 4 mana quite low in terms of what they can do. So I think he just wanted to really avoid that and try and put Cow off balance by not being able to pull out those secrets out of the deck. And like we said earlier, with the maybe lack of card draw, pulling out cards out of the deck is going to be really key. But I think as the turns go on, the Wild Growth's just going to reduce in how effective it's going to be. So that might just end up being a card draw later in the game.
Well, he still had the curve, so... Alright, Lotheb drops down, and now Cow faces 2 big minions. Tom even decides to attack with his Shade of Naxxramas at this point. And the only playable card is Big Game Hunter. Well...
I mean, do you even throw that down? I think against Druid, what are you actually waiting for with Druid?
Dr. Boom, Ragnaros, those are the big targets you can hit.
Yeah, because there's got to be temptation just to put it on the board, because you know you're going to probably put the Ooze into the Shade, because if you don't kill it now, it's just going to continue to grow. But then the Lotheb's going to get some good work done as well, so you need something to challenge the board. It's just that the Lotheb coming out there at that moment for Tom was key, because Cow's hand is so heavily spell.
So what do you think about just trading the 3-2 into the 4-2, attacking with the 3-4 into the 5-5, ping the 5-5, and play the BGH? So you end up with some kind of board, and next turn you'll be able to ping the Lotheb as well, and apparently he goes for it.
Yeah, I think that's fine, because the freeze effect of the Water Elemental, you feel fairly safe that the Lotheb's not going to trade then with the big Game Hunter, of course, so it's not like a normal minion attacking in there. So I think that's okay, and it just puts something on the board for Cow.
Oh man, for Tom, Sylvanas really sucks. But on the other hand, he is challenging the ping. Like, what do you ping now? Do you ping Sylvanas? Do you ping the 5-1?
Yeah, I think you probably just ping off the Sylvanas, because the Lotheb's just a standard 5-5, and you don't want to try and mess around with the Sylvanas effect. If you can get rid of it in just a quick turn and fairly okay trade, and it's pretty decent. And the Water Elemental, if he plays it now, it sort of trades okay versus the Lotheb, and it would take a hero power as well to finish off from Tom there. So I think that's okay.
I think you actually Frostbolt, because why do you need Frostbolt? You have Antonidas, so you'll have enough burst. And just throwing away Water Elemental to die to Lotheb seems wasteful. So I agree that you attack into Sylvanas, you ping Sylvanas, and then I think you just Frostbolt the 5-1 and pass.
Yeah, I mean, you could even set up the duplicate as well. Because like Water Elemental and maybe even Antonidas, if that happens, duplicating those isn't terrible. I think the Antonidas might be a little bit slow, but
yeah, actually,
just trying to use his mana, that's all.
I like duplicate more. You can take 5 damage, you have eliminators in your deck, you have a lot of heal.
And the problem as well is with his turns coming up with the Water Elemental and the potential Polymorph that's going to come out, you're running out of time to actually play Duplicate because you need it there because it's a huge part of this deck in generating more cards to play. So I think getting it out and
oh man, Dr. Boom is here and BGH is out.
That Flame Strike's probably not what you wanted to see on this board.
Nope. You want to ping Lothep. But yeah, I guess Fireball is fine. You will have that burst, and he saved his Frostbolt, so Antonidas with Frostbolt will be nice to just clear. Antonidas at this moment is like a turn 9 card.
Yeah, I mean, it's not got the normal, the works of seeing like mages that have spare parts in them or anything that's really easy to combo. Oh, and there's another Duplicate, so that's going to be a bit dead for a little while anyway.
Also, he doesn't have the taunts yet. No Sludge Belchers. It doesn't look that great for ExplodingCow, actually.
Yeah, and he can't even Flame Strike Frostbolt either, so very limited in the options here.
Do you just polymorph the 7/7?
I think on this board, coming up to turn 9, and your opponent's got a sizable hand, I think you almost have to just deal with the 7/7 in some way. I think just leaving it up is just really dangerous. Because he knows he hasn't got the, he's not got Ice Barrier down either, so he could just die. Oh, he's going to go with a Frostbolt, okay, so he's going to just slow the Dr. Boom down there, which is fine, because it does actually set up for a Flame Strike as well next turn.
He's valuing Polymorph more than the Frostbolt with Antonidas. That's interesting to me. What is he looking to Polymorph? Something like a, well, Sludge Belcher? Something with the Fraddle? I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe a Rag, like you said, because he knows the Dr. Boom's gone as well. Oh, he got the Duplicate on the Water Elemental. That's okay, but with the board state as well, it's a bit slow. It's not like you can just double drop Water Elemental and say, yeah, I'm safe.
There is a Silence coming for Bull. Not really, actually. Okay, he just wants to build up the board even more. I wouldn't hate the Silence Boom at like for 7.
Yeah, it would have put, I mean, putting the Mage to 10 when you know you've probably still got combo cards to come, and he has actually got additional card draw with the Wild Growth in hand as well, so that wouldn't have been terrible, and he has actually just pretty much fed into a Flame Strike there.
Tom picks up Force of Nature, so he's really close to lethal ranges.
That belongs in a museum.
So for Tom, it's an easy game now. Just play your minions, try to sneak in even more damage to finish the game with Force and Swipe. That's 10 points of damage coming. Exploding Sheep. He gets the Sludge Belcher finally.
Oh, and he can play Duplicate. So I think that's
There's a Silence though.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because at this point in with Tom's health so high, he can probably afford to just ignore any minions that come down now, as long as he can draw into something a bit more aggressive, maybe the second part of the combo. But Cal will just want to try and keep these minions down because he's still out of lethal range from just the combo alone, and he does have Ice Barrier as well. So I think if Cal just tries to just stabilize a little bit, he might actually find himself in an okay position.
Yeah, that's true. This is a very important turn. If he can stabilize from this point, he will take the game. But it is hard to stabilize versus Druid, having all this burst.
I think from Cal's point, even Polymorph ping Water Elemental would be okay, because you know without like an Innovate into another Savage Roar, then you're not going to die. But he's actually gone with the Ice Barrier instead.
Oh, Ice Barrier instead of Duplicate. It looks like Duplicate.
Yeah, very true. It's Tom knows that there's double Duplicate in the deck, so, and this is where mind games come in.
I like it, but what does it change for Tom? You might still want to attack into that Belcher, or you might just actually force Silence because you think it's Duplicate.
Yeah, but especially because the Harrison's 5/3. If you silence, then like why would Cow not still just run it into the 5/3? It's such a good trade. Then you just would. Is he going for the silence? No, he's actually going to clear.
Interesting. So he didn't care about Duplicate himself. So mostly he just wanted to kill it, not to have a 3/5 running around.
Yeah, and what he's done there is by not just running the Harrison in and doing it in the sequence he did, he now has 2 minions on the board. So he's definitely got lethal if he draws into that Savage Roar. So that's what Tom wants to be doing now, just building up the board and keeping it as safe as possible. And the Belch is definitely going to help with that if he doesn't draw into lethal next turn. But Cow's actually got a draw into his heal bot, which we didn't even see last game, did we?
Yeah, we didn't see it. And right now he is facing the threat of a combo. A possible 14 damage plus the 7 plus 4, 11. So 26? 25.
Yeah, 25, I think.
And if you heal bot, you escape that range. So maybe just heal bot and water elemental, unless you really want to duplicate the heal bot.
Yeah, the problem with duplicating on the heal bot is that why at 28 health, why would Tom care about 3/3?
Yeah.
It's not like a Sludge Belcher that you either silence it or you have to kill it. So I think that would be a bit too risky because Tom could easily ignore it. We're going to see the really safe play actually of just polymorphing the Harrison and just getting the 5 damage off the board.
Well, he's still outside of the combo range because the combo, that would be 18.
Yeah, 18. And there's a dope. Do you think we're going to see a Force of Nature maybe just to clear up the water elemental? Or maybe even just push for damage?
I like just playing a minion here. He has that blue force, but he might actually be running Thorison as well. If he draws into Thorison, that would be a lot of damage in one turn.
He also has swipe as well, so you could actually just prep a turn by swiping into face just for the even more damage. So maybe negate some healing that Cow might have in his hand.
There's finally a draw for ExplodingCow because he is running out of cards mostly. He has those like a lot of value cards, producing free cards just by playing spells, but then he needed to draw more. And this is exactly as you said, like he seems to be stabilizing.
Yeah, and with the only problem is like as soon as he stabilizes, he can start thinking about Antonidas, but he's probably run out of spells in his deck now to actually do anything with that. So if Cow was in control of the game earlier, Antonidas would have had quite a big impact and potentially won the game. But now it's just a bit of a dead card because Cow's constantly on the defensive and needs to sort of edge around that danger health of the combo.
Come on, he just needs one spell. And then
yeah,
just
true.
for Antonidas to survive. But yeah, I can see what you're saying. Like normally you trade those spells into fireballs. So Tom is really... Is he trading, playing the War of Attrition, or is he going... Okay.
Oh, I'm surprised he killed the heal bot first. That was interesting. I think I would have been less scared of more water elementals because your combo can't be frozen because you play it on that turn and that creates the minions. Whereas now he's just giving his opponent that's a grinder deck effectively even more heal.
It seems like he didn't really assume it's duplicate somehow. But he attacked face first. So I guess he attacked face and then he was like, oh, this is ice block, possibly. Like even when there was a Belcher on board with the ice barrier, he just killed the Belcher instead of silencing.
Yeah. Yes, this game's actually like, you know, Cow's looking more and more comfortable and Tom's
full health.
Oh, so I was just going to say, Tom's running a bit low on sort of good cards. The Shredder's good, of course, but the other two pieces are a bit, you know, mild. But being able to put into the Ancient of Law into 2 more, and one of those being the Emperor, is going to have a decent impact. Like you said, with reducing the cost of part of the combo, means you can maybe slip in a hero power as well for just that extra little bit of reach.
Oh man, is this game ever going to end? It feels like ExplodingCow is just going to heal till Tom concedes.
Yeah, I mean, you can even follow up with the Blizzard this turn is okay, or if he wants to just Flame Strike Ping. But he could, I wouldn't even mind Blizzard and just drop a Water Elemental. Just puts another one on the board.
I like it.
At least you put something there, you kill off 2 of the minions, and the Ancient of Laws, again, just not going to be a factor for a turn, and then you can Flame Strike straight after, so...
If Tom60229 actually bursts ExplodingCow after all this heal and like, you know, trying this stoppage, let's say, like all the cards that basically stop him from killing him, that would be very impressive.
Yeah, we can see now just from the look of the actual decks is that like Tom's much deeper into his deck than Cow is, so we might even get to fatigue. Oh, Druid of the Claw coming down though, that's actually good for just some extra reach, just get it into a 4/4 charge.
Yeah. Also, I assume Tom has double Savage Roar in the deck, so he draws double Savage Roar and then plays Torison, that would be a lot of damage.
Yep.
Okay.
So I guess we're probably going to see the Flame Strike, but do you Owl the Shredder? Is there anything worth saving the Owl for at this point?
Versus Druid, I don't think so. Like, you've seen One Belcher, you've seen a lot of... You've seen Sylvanas.
Yeah, and to just clear the board again, I mean, those were 3 pretty good. A Druid of the Claw, Shredder, and sort of half an Ancient of Law. Sort of beefy minions there for Tom. And once again, Cow sat on 29 health, 2 minions on the board, and Tom now at last has drawn the actual complete combo, but what's he going to do?
Well, I think Torison is swipe, possibly. You just get rid of the annoying minions and you set up a 5-5. You're happy that your combo gets reduced. If you draw into Savage Roar, you will still be able to force double Savage Roar next turn.
Yeah, but Tom will be aware that Cow actually has another heal bot still in hand because he knows it got duplicated. He knows he only saw 1 more. So again, he's got to be aware of. He's got to really sort of put Cow in the right position to build on this damage. And we're finally going to see Antonidas get played, maybe.
Yeah.
With that Frostbolt draw, I mean, why not? Like you said, all you need is 1, and suddenly Cow looks pretty good. How does Tom deal with Antonidas?
I think like ExplodingCow was actually looking really great for a couple of last turns, stabilizing, healing himself, and getting all the cards that are necessary to win the game.
Yeah, and if he uses Force combo, because he'll be that afraid of Antonidas now, because he knows Cow can just go Fireball, Fireball, have 2 more Fireballs and win the game. But if he uses it, then how does he ever kill Cow? It's going to be really difficult.
That's true. He used 1 Force already, so here normally you would just Force and Hero Power to deal 7 points of damage, but because he used 1 Force and he might have a second Savage in the deck, he just use the Druid of the Claw and Hero attack?
Yeah, but the problem with Druid of the Claw is, like, he knows Cow can just Fireball it, get another
like,
Fireball back.
Druid of the Claw and Savage
yeah,
Roar and
sorry,
kill
yeah, and Savage Roar as well. Yeah, yeah.
This is annoying, but this might be what you have to do.
Yeah, I think he just has to deal with Antonidas somehow.
I've got the beast in my sights.
Oh, is he going yellow, hoping with the cut form and charging face, hoping that he actually gets Savage Roar? I don't know how many cards he has in the deck, but if he gets Savage Roar next turn, can he possibly win? There's a Sludge Belcher and a heal bot.
Yeah, I think with Cow now you can probably just play both. Oh, an Ice Barrier as well.
God, like there's no way he's going through all those defenses. Cow can just chill.
Unfortunately for Cow though, like I was just thinking about the play then, and Healbot he actually doesn't gain 1 health that he could have because he's sat on 23. So Ice Barrier is probably going to be the better play than Healbot because he doesn't particularly need the minion on the board, but he can Sludge Belcher, Ice Barrier, but then the ping doesn't really do too much, unfortunately. If only the Emperor was on 1 health.
All right, if there is a Savage Roar draw after this, every minion gets +4, so it's like 8, and you have also 3, 4, 8. Okay, quick math.
This is why I'm staying quiet now. I'm letting you do the maths on stream. I'm being quiet. He's got to clear 2 of the minions though, and play the Ice Barrier. And
right, basically, if there is like a second Savage Roar, there will be 4 minions on board, 5 targets with the Savage Roar, which means there is +20, and 6, 10, 30 points of damage.
It's not going to be enough, is it?
That's wait, 1 off. No, he can shapeshift. That's exact lethal. Oh my God, this was exact lethal for. Well, ExplodingCow didn't play around double Savage Roar combo.
To be fair, I don't think he had the ability to as well, because if he played Sludge Belcher, say Healbot, or Sludge Belcher Ice Barrier, there's still 2 more minions on the board to actually try and deal with, so that would have been even more damage. So. But
then there's a Sludge Belcher that's actually stopping those minions, hopefully, kind of.
Yeah, true. Oh, I don't, it's too much maths for my liking. And there you go, Tom takes the game, and an interesting one is what I'll say.
That was incredible, man. And I was only able to spot this lethal because I have my new glasses in correction. Tom had glasses as well, like ExplodingCow has glasses. Now they can see their lethals. Right?
It's clearly why I'm not doing well, you know. Definitely missing them.
You're doing well casting, so you're having fun here.
Thank you.
All right, man. This is really impressive for Tom. He actually, like, it was so close, right? Exploding Sheep stabilized, and
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's what I was mentioning about the deck. We didn't see, other than the Antonidas late on, a true win condition. But as Cow managed to stabilize, it's more how does my opponent win, and that's how the deck plays. And it's really awkward to play against. So fair enough to Tom. He's done really well to take 2 games against that deck.
Yeah, it's and what's the next deck for Tom? His last deck is
Warrior.
Is Green Patron Warrior?
Yeah, it's Patron.
All right, so his tournament live is hanging. Well, it's not like tournament live. He's actually in a very good spot to win the match. But we're going to get back after a short break, guys. Short break, and then we continue the match.
And it all comes down to this Stormwind champion versus Ogre Brute.
I'm feeling really good about Stormwind here.
Whoa.
Am I seeing this right?
Could be a scare tactic, Bob. Could be nerves.
I don't think scare tactics work with ogres.
You know from experience.
Okay, well, let's not get into my personal life.
Hold that thought. Looks like we have a substitution. It's Tankmaster Overspark.
This guy's a very technical player. His game's about nuance, precision.
Whoa, that's Hearthstone.
Play it free on your phone or PC.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Gfinity Summer Masters 1. I'm your host Nimsh, and I'm joined here by Raven. We've just seen an amazing game. Like, we were discussing it during the break because we were so excited about it. Tom basically patiently waited for that kill, and he ignored Antonidas. He was so brave not to kill it, and just set up that kill, hoped that he is going to take the Savager, and with that.
Yeah, I mean, in being so deep in his deck, he knew it's got to come at some point. But having the discipline to just hold off and know there's only your way that single way to win it just shows how strong of a player he is. Really, he's playing against a deck that he's probably never played against that sort of true style before, and like I said, just to hold off and just know how to win and know that you've got to take the chances. Like I said, leaving Antonidas is something you would almost never do in a matchup if you can kill him, but knowing that he had to and just hope it was enough was really impressive.
But on the other hand, like, ExplodingCow is playing that deck beautifully. It's just like making those decisions and clearing boards. He almost stabilized, so I feel like he was unlucky in the end that he lost versus Tom, because he had it in the bag. Like, he had the heals, he had the taunts, he had Antonidas online as well. It feels like Tom stole the win under him.
Yeah, I think the Emperor coming out on 2 parts of the combo was huge, just in being able to play double Savage Roar on top of the hero power as well for the lethal was pretty big. That pretty much won him the game.
All right, so guys, if you're enjoying this deck that ExplodingCow is playing, which is the Cow Mage, as we call it, the deck is still alive. Like, he will have to win 1 game with it, and then what's left for him? What's the last deck?
Yeah, so he's got Warrior as well, which we've not seen. I imagine it could be either, like we say, with the natural response is to go to Patron because it seems to be what everyone's playing at the moment. But, Control Warrior is sort of on a resurgence as well. So
can it be a Courier? Is that even a word?
It is now. That's what we'll call his deck.
Right,
no matter what it
Courier.
is, it could be standard Patron, but that's what we're going to call it. Knowing Cow, if I had to just go off straight off, like, I would say it was a Control Warrior, just because he's, as we can see from his Mage deck, he's a control player. I don't know how much he's actually practiced
himself.
Patron.
Yeah,
he likes just outlasting. He has the mindset of, instead of playing highly aggro decks and just rushing someone down, he wants to a lot of decision-making decks where you sit on hopefully a big hand and you'd play the long game and hopefully you can beat your opponent in that way as opposed to just playing Face Hunter, for example.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I would play Face Hunter, but I can definitely appreciate a different playstyle and a different deck list as well, because like most of the decks that we see is like Freeze Mage, Flamewaker Mage, and a lot of people say, hey, in those tournaments, people always do the same lists. But here we have ExplodingCow bringing his own brew. He knows how to play it. Nobody else knows how to play it or how to play against it. But Tom60229 is doing good. He actually has an edge right, 2-2-1.
Yeah, I think it just shows, like we said, his caliber as a player, that he can come against a deck that he's not seen before and doesn't really know how to play against, but knows his own decks and can make those plays and knows how to win. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I mean, having to fall back on Patron isn't the worst thing in the world. Having to win 1 out of potentially 2 games, I think Tom's probably feeling pretty comfortable at the moment.
Yeah, on the other hand, this deck might be stopping the Patron. We've discussed it before this match started. And, well, it seems like playing versus Contra Warrior, because it is stopping you, it is killing your minions, he has the Frost Bolts. He is giving you time, though. Like, because this deck, that the Mage that ExplodingCow is playing, is actually really slow.
Yeah.
He wants to set up. And with Patron, you just draw the combo parts, and then you try to find this window of opportunity when you can double frauding maybe and just steal a win again.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to play the same way. So he's going to have to wait for the correct opening and be patient enough. And we've seen that Tom can do that. Because, again, we've seen Flame Strikes, we've seen Blizzards. You've seen other board clear and Sludge Belchers. So it's going to be really difficult to get like just a big Patron board and hope that's enough. So he's probably going to have to look for, say, the Frothing burst, similar to how you play against Freeze Mage.
Yeah, that's true. And I want to ask you, Raven, like, how are you enjoying Gfinity? Because you're back here, you were the first edition. You missed the second one, but here, again, you are here with us.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, like, it's a great team at Casters and the Analyst guys. Great set of players. I really enjoy watching players that are obviously fantastic guys and can really play the game well, but they aren't maybe as well known. So we actually get to see them play in the tournament format, see how they perform. So, yeah, it's been really good.
All right, I'm enjoying it myself, and the players selected Warrior and Mage, so Cow just smiling. He needs to get 1 win with that deck. It needs to survive once, and then maybe he will be able to play Warrior versus Warrior. But we might see something really interesting. This is not the matchup you normally see.
No, it's going to be it's definitely going to be a strange one. And again, it's just going to test Tom's knowledge of his own deck as well. Like, Patron's a very complicated deck, and I think it's not one you can just pick up and play. You've got to put a lot of time into it and really work out your win conditions. But there's not really a plan against Cow Mage, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true. All right, we see the mulligans. The game begins. It might be the last game of the match if Tom60229 takes it. What do you think about Cow's hand?
I think Water Elementals are definitely going to be key cards, and if you can duplicate them along with maybe Sludge Belchers, it's going to be huge. Cow knows what type of warrior this is, which is definitely going to affect the mulligan. Polymorph's good to deal with, say, the commanders or even patrons themselves if they get them on low board, but I don't know if it's going to be maybe too much of an investment to actually hold on to, because you've got to presume that the patron turns and any big turns are coming much later in the game, and he instead maybe wants Mad Scientist to get the 2 attack minions off the board before they could become a problem with patron, and to also proc his own secrets and just get them into play straight away. Make it really awkward, because patrons can generate more of themselves by trading into minions, but if you're forced to trade into something, you know, duplicates up, you have to do it, but you potentially cause issues for yourself as well.
Yeah, you also can bait him into getting more patrons so that he can Flame Strike next turn, maybe Blizzard into Flame Strike.
Yeah.
On Tom's side, he did mulligan Floating Berserker. That makes a lot of sense. Against this kind of deck, you want to have draw. Like, a lot of draw, you want to get into Torisan, and you have to have a big Torisan hand. You don't even need weapons that much. So he kept the Battle Rage and Nomish Inventor, picking up another Nomish.
Yeah, and something we talked about earlier as well that's now in Tom's hand again is the Grommash. It might actually really help in this matchup, being able to just provide even like just bigger bursts and maybe just push that little bit more that Tom will probably need in a deck that's probably total health is more than I'm going to bother trying to counter this moment. But Cow's hand is actually really strong with double Water Elemental, Duplicate, Belcher down, all cards that trade really well with patrons and even soak up weapons quite well. And if you can get a Water Elemental down and just manage to play by just hitting the warrior, then you just lock out weapons out of the game. It forces Tom to actually try and deal with it in a not great way, you know, putting executes into Water Elementals and then duplicates down, and you're just making more problems for yourself. It's really awkward to play against.
That's absolutely true. But on the other hand, ExplodingCow is not playing Ice Block. So if Tom is able to generate an amazing board, then he will be in a great position. He picks up Torisan and Warsong Commander, 2 very important cards. Unstable Ghoul is not bad as well. Now the question is, can you somehow get a great Battle Rage?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can get the 2-card Battle Rage off this turn. It's really awkward because if Tom thinks that's duplicate, he sort of has to deal with the elemental because it's going to lock him out of any weapons, even though we can see Tom currently doesn't have any in hand. And it's going to do damage as well. Patron doesn't have the normal armor capabilities that a Control Warrior has, and it relies on the Armor Smiths and maybe big Whirlwind or Whirlwind effect turns. So Cow could potentially play this game a little bit more aggressive and take it that way. We also see the second Gnomish again, like you said, Tom just trying to draw deeper into his deck and really get this Emperor value next turn.
I agree that here it seems like you want to block the weapon, but on the other hand, you do enable a Battle Rage this way. It's not like you have any minion attacks. Like with this Water Elemental, you just have to attack phase, right? Just stop Deathspite.
Yeah, I think stopping Deathspite is definitely more important at the moment than dealing with the minions that are on the board. They're not really too much of a threat. And there's no real good way he can run one in and ping, but then what else does he do? You know, it's not fantastic, but playing the other Warlock Elemental is pretty good. I mean, getting 2 on the board now, I mean, Tom's got to start being a little bit worried about these guys.
I wouldn't hate playing Mad Scientist as well, because most of the Greek Patron Warriors, they are not playing Brawl. So when you know you're playing versus Warrior without Brawl, you can just overextend. But on the other hand, if you play something like Mad Scientist, if there's Warsong Commander Patron, then Patron can multiply. But this is not the turn that this can happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think getting cards, it was similar as I mentioned in the Hunter matchup, getting your like low attack minions out early, just for them to just do their job and go, is really important. You're not really too afraid of a Patron, especially with this board. There's no Despite in hand for Tom or active on his Warrior, so you're not scared of that effect. And the odds on a 6 mana sort of, he could Patron in a Rage and then Whirlwind, but does it do too much with 2 Water Elementals on the board? So it's probably not going to happen, but the Emperor on turn 6 with a reasonably large hand is definitely going to be what Tom wanted to see there, and probably pretty happy just dropping that and just ignoring the Elementals to a certain extent, because a lot of these cards are key cards in getting that combo.
Yeah, that's true. But on the other hand, he doesn't have all the combo cards, he doesn't have any Frothings, he doesn't have Patron. So
he has Grom, it'll be fine.
I wouldn't like. I was thinking about other turn by Tom. If you would go with the weapon and maybe Unstable Ghoul and Courser to try to set up a Battle Rage, and then after a big Battle Rage, which will draw you from 2 to 3 cards, drop Thorison. But
yeah, I agree. That's actually not a bad play at all, because the because we've seen the cards that aren't a lot of the combo cards, the odds on you doing a Battle Rage that big and drawing into the key ones is pretty huge. And then the Emperor on top of that, like you said, is just going to open up for the huge combos. But Cow's forced to... I mean, Emperor pretty much has Taunt, right? Has just the ultimate Taunt on it. Even though it's not on the card text or displayed, you have to kill it, especially playing against a Patron Warrior. So he's going to just remove that and keep his Elementals up as well.
Yeah, certainly true. Well, right now with this, at least I feel he might get a good Battle Rage, but he'll need to use the War Song. How much damage is it? How much mana is it actually? This is 3, 4, 5, 6. He can play 1 Battle Rage using Unstable Ghoul, War Song, even Courser and a weapon.
Yeah, I think at the moment he needs to draw into the better threats, like you said, the Frothing and the Patron, and having 2 Battle Rages in hand as well. You just cycle them, get them out of the way.
You can actually use even both Battle Rages, because I didn't realize the cost of the Courser is reduced even more.
Oh, because of yeah. And I mean, also a point to make, that's a decent chunk of armor he's on now as well. He's on 11, so although Cow's probably not going to try and burst him down with this deck, just having like just factually more health than your opponent in a long game is actually pretty key.
Yeah, also Cow doesn't even have a way to deal with this Warsong Commander now.
Yeah, he's going to be hoping for a sort of top deck Flame Strike, maybe?
That's not a Flame Strike, so... Wait, this looks really deadly for Cow. The best play is just Sludge Belcher here? Is he dead if he faces Sludge Belcher?
He's not got the mana to do what he really needs to do. I mean, Fireballing the Warsong isn't great, but it might be enough.
Yeah, that might be actually
like it might have to just be the play, and I know Cow's really good at spotting awkward plays that don't look obvious, but he does take his time and work out realistically. Like if I play the Sludge Belcher, fine, but it could just get cleared up by a big Frothing turn or something, and I could just lose. So he might actually just be forced into an Ice Barrier, into the Fireball, into the Warsong. And if your opponent's got another Warsong, fine, but if he's not, then suddenly you're much safer. And again, the longer the game goes on, the more comfortable Cow's going to be.
Oh man, this is this is a Grommash turn, but Cow didn't have many good choices. This was the best I think he had. Actually, that was a really good insight to remove the Warsong commander there. If he would not remove Warsong with so many cards in Warrior's hand, he will be dead for sure.
Yeah, because you've just got to presume there's Patron and a proc off there like Whirlwind effects to finish the game. You just have to when a player's got such a big hand, like you said. Oh god, can he even survive?
He picks up Polymorph, but he won't be able to play Belcher in Polymorph. And he needs to take rid of Grommash. There's a weapon incoming, so it seems like it's over. Oh man, so Cow Mage was actually Cow's demise, and
yeah, and we saw there the Grommash sort of like we said earlier, the sort of style flare pick, it really worked. It's like, you know, that putting 12 damage out of nowhere that Cow's not really expecting, especially with the commander gone. That was the whole point about his play. He reduced the chances of the patrons to come out with that combo or even Frothings, but then someone just plays a creature with charge that can do 12 damage. So
yeah, that's massive.
It's definitely something Cow probably wasn't expecting because it's not the most popular version, but you know, it's worked and the surprise factor's definitely helped, and I think Cow's probably going to quickly see that there's not a lot he can do.
Yeah, like, well, he's not dead on board if he polymorphs Grommash and then pings it. With this, he is still dead, and Tom knows it.
Tom knows it, yep.
Clenches his fist. Just now.
And now misclicks.
He just needs to go for the motions. He has his first match. A really good series, I'd say.
Yeah. I think both players did really well. Like Tom especially, playing against an awkward deck, but still playing pretty much perfectly. I don't think, other than the first game that he lost because of the Armorsmith, like we said, I think every other play there can't really fault.
And it's really important because winning the first match, you do get momentum. And we also mentioned that Tom was under fatigue. But I think we might actually leave it to our analysts for them to talk about the situation and the match and what happened. But personally, I'm impressed by both players. Cow bringing his own Mage with his own build, and you know, Tom going through all those difficulties and playing versus the deck 3 times.
Yeah.
3 times Raven.
I've practiced with Cow when he plays that deck, so I know what it's like. I feel for Tom, but you know, he came out on top. So I also think that on Cow's side, at least, he's got to be okay. I mean, he has lost, but like we said earlier, he's lost to pretty much the best player in his group, so he can now just focus on, okay, I've got 2, you know, I need to get 2 wins, and I can just focus on the other games. Now that game, it was okay. I don't think Cow particularly misplayed, but
all right, okay, guys, let's see what our analysts have to say about the whole match and the whole situation here. So, guys.
And Raven, of course, we are back here with Lothar and Kaldi. We have our first match in the books. Tom60229 taking the game 3-1 over ExplodingCow. Lots to talk about in that match, lots to digest. Let's talk first about the Patron Warrior play, because we saw it first from Tom and then in the last game as well. Last game we saw some pretty good Patron Warrior play, but actually some kind of questionable plays in that first game, Lothar.
Oh, well, maybe let's start first with the overall impression of the game, of the whole match. For me, I might be the bad guy here, but that's my job. I'm the analyst. So both players played terribly, in my opinion. It was really not something I would like to say, but both players didn't play correctly how the matchup should go, even when you don't know the exact matchups. But the mulligans were kind of off, and especially the turn 3 Warsong commander in the game 1 against Hunter didn't make any sense because you had no follow-ups. On turn 4, you had you sacrifice your only weapon against Freezing Trap, and you sacrifice also the possible comeback mechanism with Armorsmiths later on. At least that was my impression. What do you call it?
I want to talk a bit about the lineups to start with, and I actually thought that Tom had the weaker lineup, but it was a bit weird how things went. I have to.
Yeah, it was very odd.
When we talk about the plays, you know, don't want to be as I guess aggressive. I think, you know, the first game, the Hunter game from Cow, was well played, and I think the second Freeze Mage game was decent. But the thing is, if you're playing this type of mid lock, you have to win the Mali lock, because you're not going to be that good against Face Hunter. You're not going to be good against really greedy decks like Shaman, for example. So, you know, a mid-range kind of combo deck like Malilok is something you really should be beating, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was what we were saying up here, was that really it felt like a deck like Cow's Mage, where the whole point is to exhaust the win conditions. The win conditions of the Malagos lock are so limited that felt like a really good matchup, but he was really hesitant to use the Owls in that game as well, Lothar.
Yeah, that was a turn when he didn't play the Owl on Twilight Drake. He was like waiting with the Owl just to silence the Malagos, and usually when you see the Malagos, it's game over anyway. So you can't really play the Owl. I mean, keep the Owl for to finish the game. You have to soak the damage first, because we saw that the Twilight Drake did get like a Frostbolt, 2 minions trades, and
then it was left at 2 health, and he had no way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
The thing about the Malilok especially, you have to play to what you have in your hand. If you have, you have 2 Twilight Drakes and Blackwing Corruptors, you can play it defensively, and but if you have an Owl, you have two Soulfires, you have the Hellfire, you have the Dark Bomb. He had an incredibly aggressive hand, and he was just playing it halfway, it felt like. But I guess also, and then he drops the Malagos and goes for a Mortal Coil just on a Belcher. It was just very halfway all, but he did end up winning that game as Cow also played kind of halfway in that game. So
this is something you usually see when players are not so confident and like being nervous. They play really safe, or just they can't decide which way to go. All in, or just play like really defensively, and we go with AoEs to clear the minions, and they just like they were splitting their ways to win, and this is not something you want to do in a card game when your resources are limited.
You just can't do that with the strategies. You need to pick a strategy and really follow it through, rather than maybe kind of muddle your way through when you're feeling a little bit nervous. I want to talk about game 3 as well, the Mage Druid match. There was obviously the turn at the end where it felt like if Cow had played the Sludge Belcher, that was another option. He could have stayed alive and was counting the damage, and we were debating that between us. How did you see that match, Caldi? I think it was a little bit difficult.
I guess the idea when we really far ahead, is you need to stay ahead, and you can continue playing the same way. I guess go for the greed, get the value going, and I guess secure the win. But the thing is also you give him more turns to draw, and you give him more turns to draw into possible comeback combos, which we saw happen especially. So if he'd been in a bigger hurry, had maybe gone for fewer hero powers, played more of his stuff out, I think he would have won that match. Yeah, but it was interesting to see, because we saw Tom really seemed to be quite nervous in game number 1 and 2, but and
we didn't expect that from him. We expected him to be a little bit more confident, but we will see Tom in our winners game of Group A. We're going to take a quick look at the bracket now before we head towards our second game. So you can see that Don't Stop Me quite some time ago beat Unskiller 3-2 in our match.
It was like
our second
1-1.
Still when we were in game 2, but Tom60229 is going to play Don't Stop Me, and we're going to have that coming up as our third match on the stream here. ExplodingCow is going to go to the losers bracket. He's going to face Unskiller in the on the second stage, and we're not going to see that game. We will bring you the result of that when we have it, but we're going to go to a quick break now, and then we'll be back with our next game from Group B. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Gfinity Summer Masters.
One damage away from victory, they bring in Matter Bomber to seal the deal.
Now this guy really loves dynamite, Jim.
But it doesn't look like it loves him, Bob. He's blown up his own team.
5 for 5, though.
Hearthstone, play it free.